Now this video is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to be talking about some new cutting edge cover call style ETF or some dividend stock that just announced a dividend increase, but instead we're going to be going through and giving you guys all a tour, an inside look at my personal 7-figure portfolio that I've been building for over 8 years now. Inside my portfolio, I have around 45 or 50 different positions, different stocks or ETFs, some of them that I've been holding for several years now. I'm going to go through and share with you guys every single position I've been holding and sort of explain why I hold on to them, why I bought them in the first place, and any sort of other important insights. So if you want to see the behind the scenes of my personal portfolio as a 32-year-old 7-figure dividend investor, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. If you are a dividend investor who wants to level up your portfolio, you need to be tracking your dividend income consistently. And that's why I created the perfect dividend tracker that I've used to scale my dividend income up to all-time highs over the last year. Now, along with this dividend tracker, you're also going to receive my A to Z dividend investing ebook, which shows you how I personally started from $0 several years ago to now where I earn over $7,500 per month in dividends. So if you want this tracker and the ebook, go to the first link down below in my description and grab it today. So first of all, just to back things up for a second, like I said, I'm currently 32 years old. I've been investing in dividend paying stocks and ETFs for around 8+ years now, but I've been saving consistently for now around 13 or 14 years. Now, the reason I got interested into dividend investing is because before dividend investing, I was buying into different certified deposits, different CDs from banks and different institutions, and I personally love the idea of parking cash inside of something and then getting paid interest and or dividends consistently, whether it's monthly or quarterly. So long story short, over the last 8 or so years, I have been investing consistently in different dividend paying stocks and ETFs, so much to the point to where as of right now, I currently have over $1 million invested and earn around $91,000 plus per year as an estimation. Now, to get right into my portfolio, the first position is 1,768 shares of ticker symbol BDJ, the BlackRock Enhanced Equity Dividend Trust. This is a closed-end fund that I've been buying and holding for several years now. It pays a consistent payout, which as of recently was just raised, and has done wonders for my portfolio as far as income goes. Although my average cost per share is up pretty high, I've still made back my money plus some with this ETF over the years. Next, another one of my favorite ETFs, Devo. I have 1,520 shares of Devo. I've been buying more Devo as of recently and even made a video as of recent saying that I'm going to be using a lot of my cash balance moving forward in 2025 and buying a ton of Devo because I love this ETF. I like what it offers. It offers a nice mix of consistent income, but along with that, some growth potential too. Then next I have my 1,262 shares of Verizon stock. I bought Verizon stock years and years ago. As you can see by my average cost per share, it's much higher than where it's trading currently. And the reason I bought Verizon stock is that I thought it was going to be a low beta stable position that was going to offer me around a 5% growing yield. And also because back in the day I sold off my AT&T position, I thought Verizon was a bit more stable and high quality. And in retrospect, I of course would not have bought Verizon, or at least not bought this much of it. But overall, it's paid me a consistent dividend every single quarter, and I was lucky enough to sell covered calls on the entire way down. So all in all, it's been a pretty good position, all things considered. Next, I have my 1,001 shares of Apple. The story with this is that back in 2020, when everything was crashing, I bought a ton of Apple stock with savings that I had on the sidelines. Certain days back then, I bought 20 shares of Apple at a time. Some days I bought more or less. But basically, my goal was to get to 1,000 shares of Apple. I have 1,001 shares because I did actually receive a free share from one of the brokers back in the day. So that's the story on the 1,001. But overall, Apple stock is one of my biggest winning positions, and I guess in retrospect, I would have been smart to buy even more than this. Next, I have 2,734 shares of QLD. QLD was an obvious income play back in the day. It hasn't been the best ETF over the last several years. I think it's returned around 7% on average, so it hasn't really lost me money, it hasn't really made me a ton of money, but QLD is in the portfolio, probably to stay. Next, we have one of my favorite single stocks across the portfolio. Also one of my largest positions, we have our 2,711 shares of Realty Income. Ticker symbol O has had a rough last few years, but my average cost per share is relatively low, so we're still up a little bit on Realty Income, and we've been paid so much in dividends over the years. Moving right along, we then have our 1,218 shares of JEPI ETF. Not really much to say about JEPI. It's an obvious income-oriented play, which has done pretty well historically. Then we have Enterprise Product Partners. I've talked about EPD several times on my channel. This is one of my favorite higher yielding single dividend paying stocks, and I think it's sort of slept on. We then have 700 shares of BST, similar to BDJ. I bought during that same time frame. BST, I'm still down a little bit on, but it has climbed its way back up, and I think this fund honestly has even more upside from here. Then we have our 434 shares of JEPQ, one of my favorite option income-oriented ETFs, maybe my all-time favorite across the entire market. JEPQ is an ETF that I have been buying more as of recently, and I plan to buy even more in the next year. And then we have a few shares of ZIBB, which is now ZVOL actually. We have 246 shares of NUSI ETF, nothing really too interesting with that. XYLD, same thing there, nothing really too interesting. These are all very old positions. We then have our almost 2,300 shares of SCHD. If you guys have watched my videos before, you know this is one of my favorite ETFs that I've been buying consistently over the past several years. And now that I own as much as I do, I'm probably going to continue to buy some, but I'm also going going to move some cash balance into some other ETFs and stocks moving forward. Next, we have our 311 shares of All-Share Group, nothing too interesting there. We have 262 shares of Triple N REIT, nothing too interesting there. We have our 100 shares of JP Morgan, which I've held for years now. Our 293 of Vici Properties. I like Vici Properties, but I still like ADC and Realty Income more personally for more diversification. We then have 59 shares of Kinder Morgan, our almost 300 shares of Main Street Capital, which I desperately still am trying to grow as time goes on. Then we have WP Carry, 351 shares of this one. I'm lucky that I didn't buy more WP Carry back in the day because it hasn't done as well as I thought it was going to, but still probably too big of a position for my portfolio. Then we have 47 shares of PNW. We have our 255 of Tesla. We have our 24 shares of UPS, nothing too interesting there. These are all super old positions here. We have our 20 shares of PBA, our 18 ABR, our 16 EXR, our SPG 17 shares, our almost 800 shares of SVOL, which I grew a lot over the last year. We then still have 9 shares of Stag, 8 shares of T-Row, 17 shares of KMB. We still have our 3180 of VNQ for real estate exposure. We have our 200 KO. We have our 700 PSA. We have our 849 SPYI. Then down here, we do have some newer positions that I've been adding to probably in the last 90 or so days. We have our 33 shares of FEPI ETF, our 2 shares of DGRW. We have our 4 shares of FDBV. We have our 14 shares of VIG. We have our 267 of SPYT. Then we have our 24 shares of PepsiCo. This is an old position I bought years ago. 41 shares of AT&T, also a very old position. We have our 1 share of DIVB. We have 251 shares of QQQI, which I have been adding a lot to as of recently. Then to end things off, we have 4 shares of AIPI. We have 2 shares of QQA. We have 15 shares of AbbVie, another very old position. And we have some shares of the Goldman Sachs Nasdaq 100 Core Premium ETF, GPIQ. So all in all, this is the majority, at least, of all the different stocks and ETFs I'm currently holding. I do have multiple different brokerages, and not every single holding that I hold, of course, is in this. But for the most part, this is where my long-term portfolio is sitting. Is my long-term portfolio perfect by any means? Absolutely not. There's a lot of work to do. There's plenty of positions in this portfolio that I would probably sell off tomorrow if they were at the right price. And there's, of course, lots of positions that I'm waiting to add to aggressively if, of course, they drop in price sometime in the future. But because the way the market has been trading, say, over the last year or even two, I've been just consistently buying into my favorite dividend-paying stocks and ETFs, not really worrying too much about the price of them, just consistently buying a little bit more on red days, but even on green days, buying shares, buying more shares, dollar cost averaging down, dollar cost averaging up. It's just my way of investing. And overall, my objective personally is to buy into different dividend paying stocks and ETFs that have some potential to grow over time. But let's be real here, I'm really using this portfolio for dividends and for the income portion of my overall portfolio because I do own some physical real estate also. The longer term goals for 2025 for the portfolio, I'm probably going to go through in depth in an up and coming video, but just a sneak peek on that, I'm probably trying to get my total monthly dividend income to an area of around $8,500 or $9,000 by the end of next year. So now that we went through my entire 7-figure portfolio, I share with you guys more or less every single stock and ETF that I currently hold across my portfolio, and even gave you some specific insight on why I bought certain things and why not. I lastly, most importantly, want to hear from you guys down below. Across your personal portfolio as of right now, what are 3 positions that are your all-time favorites as of right now? Drop the ticker symbols in my comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.